In this episode, we take up perhaps the most disturbing show in all of Star Trek, the original series, Plato's Stepchildren.
Compliance, the final frontier. Tom Fox is the voyager of trekking through compliance. His mission? To explore the original series and seek out and share what it can teach you about compliance. Here's your host, Tom Fox.
Trekking Through Compliance, Episode 65, Plato's Stepchildren. In this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, we consider the episode Plato's Stepchildren, which aired on November 22, 1968, and occurred on Stardate 5784.0. Story synopsis. When the Enterprise diverts to answer a medical emergency on an unknown planet, its crew discovers a great group of natives of the star Sandara who claim to have traveled to Earth during the time of Plato and Socrates after their star supernovaed. When Greek civilization died, they left and settled on the current planet, which they call Platonius. The Platonians have a very long lifespan but are easily injured. They are also sadistic psychokinetics who amuse themselves by manipulating the dwarf, Alexander the Dwarf. McCoy attempts to treat a minor cut on their philosopher king, Parmen, which he has sustained and has become massively infected. However, Parmen has a high fever and begins to become delirious. Unfortunately, his delirium translates into moving, shaking, and breaking of objects, including up on the Enterprise, which is in orbit above the planet. Fortunately, McCoy hypos Parmen, and the psychokinetic fit ends. When Parmen comes to, Parmen and the other Platonians begin to make life miserable for Kirk, McCoy, and Spock in order to convince McCoy to stay behind and act as their personal physician. Parmen first makes Kirk slap himself in the face repeatedly and then makes Kirk and Spock sing and perform silly songs for them. He also makes Spock laugh. When McCoy begs Parmen not to continue forcing Spock to laugh, Parmen makes him cry hysterically. In a final insult, Kirk acts as a whinnying horse while Alexander rides on his back. Spock and Kirk question Alexander and find that the Platonians' power developed 6 months, 14 days after their arrival on the planet. Spock surmises that a substance in the planet's food, which is responsible for their mental powers, since the Platonians began consuming native foods after consuming their 2 to 3 month supply of food they brought with them. The chemical kironide is found to work in conjunction with the pituitary growth hormone, explaining why the dwarf Alexander is unaffected. The Platonians force Uhura and Nurse Chapel to beam down for their further amusement. They force Spock to serenade Chapel and Kirk to kiss Uhura. Kirk and Spock are forced to take a hot poker and whip and pretend to use them on the women. Alexander tries to stab Parmen but is discovered and forced to turn the knife on himself. However, Kirk gives the Platonians a taste of their own medicine when he stops Alexander by using the psychokinetic power he has acquired using a kironide injection given to him by McCoy. Mind games between Parmen and Kirk reveal Kirk to have the stronger power, and Parmen backs down and promises to behave in the future. Kirk takes Alexander with him, leaving the Platonians to their own devices and warning that he can recreate the psychokinetic power if it should be needed. So what is the fun fact from today's episode? Well, unfortunately, it's really not a fun fact, but it's certainly commentary. This episode is most well known for the first interracial kiss on television. However, when rewatching this, it became clear that it really wasn't a kiss intended by the Platonians. It was a rape, which they wanted to watch. Such an approach of thinking about this as the first interracial kiss fails to consider the context of the kiss. As I said, it's really now seen as a rape, which the Platonians were going to amuse themselves by. It's quite difficult to watch. Yet, for another perspective, link in the show notes to missionlog.com, which embeds an interview with Nichelle Nichols about the filming of the scene. So I would suggest you check this out. Not only is this episode one of the most disturbing, if not the most, in all of Star Trek, the original series, it's also the darkest. And here I'm going to return to Rebecca, who made a post on missionlogpodcast.com and just read her post. I don't know her last name. But Quote, all of this, of course, is being played out as a part of general torture and humiliation. The characters are physically and emotionally tortured, as is the audience. It is just horrible to me when Spock is forced to injure Kirk as the unfulfilled bit of terror at the end with the men and women. I think the audience is meant to see violence against women as worse, as they are perceived as weaker. To make it even more morbid, this is a snuff film. Plato's children are getting off to it. So all of this is impressively dark for the 60s, end quote. It is a difficult episode to watch. We do need to watch difficult episodes. There are some compliance and leadership lessons, which I'm going to detail in the next segment. But if you rewatch this one, rewatch it with eyes open as to what's in it. So what are some of the key compliance lessons learned from Plato's Children? It offers some interesting compliance lessons. Some of these include, number one, power dynamics and ethical leadership. In this episode, the Platonians abuse their telekinetic powers to control others, highlighting how power can be misused. In the compliance context, this underscores the importance of ethical leadership and the need for checks and balances to prevent abuses within the power of a company. 2, the importance of speaking up. Captain Kirk and his crew demonstrate the courage to stand up against the Platonians despite the risks involved. This reflects the importance of fostering a culture where employees feel empowered to speak up about unethical practices or compliance issues without fear of retaliation. 3, respect for diversity and inclusion. This episode is notable for featuring the first interracial kiss on American television between Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura. The moment can be seen as a call for diversity and inclusion, emphasizing that organizations should respect and celebrate the differences among employees. However, you should never forget this is a rape scene, and that if you celebrate this, you can celebrate the kiss, but if you celebrate the entire scene, it really sends a different message. 4, the role of consent. The forced actions and interactions imposed by the Platonians raise critical questions about consent. In a compliance framework, this highlights the importance of ensuring that all business dealings and employee interactions are consensual and respectful of individual autonomy. 5, crisis management and adaptability. The crew's ability to adapt and find solutions in a crisis reflects the importance of having a robust crisis management strategy in place. Organizations should prepare for unexpected challenges by having clear plans and training on those, perhaps even with tabletop and desk exercises. 6, accountability and consequences. The resolution of the episode demonstrates the necessity for holding individuals accountable for their actions. Compliance programs must ensure that there are consequences for unethical behavior and accountability, which is enforced consistently and across the board. By examining these themes, Plato's Stepchildren provides valuable insights into creating a strong compliance culture that emphasizes ethical behavior, respect for individuals, and the importance of speaking out. I hope you'll join us tomorrow on Trekking Through Compliance when we take up the episode In the Wink of an Eye.
If you enjoyed this episode of Trekking Through Compliance, you can help it grow by sharing it with the biggest Trek fan you know.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.